these are teething problems, but we get through them. Big Oz, how you doing, brother?
I'm breathing, brother. How you doing? You can hear me cool? My mic
E-
coming in hot?
Everything coming in hot, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, brother. We call this program the fifth element because over and above knowledge of self, we believe that each and every person that is involved in this culture is part of that fifth element themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story and everybody has a contribution, which is the beauty of the fifth element of this culture. Oz, when you are still courting this culture and playing around with it before you were anywhere near as involved as you are with it now,
Yeah.
give us an idea of what was playing in the background. What was spinning in the background back then when you first got involved seriously into
Yeah.
telling yourself, yeah.
You see the thing with me, obviously, because I got into it from a very early age. So it was even at a point where there was just no chance of anything else but that. Because I mean I got into this thing when I was in grade two,
Yeah.
grade two, standard one. And my funny enough, my first love was astronomy. I thought I was going to be an astronomer because I was
Yeah.
very much obsessed with planets. I was in grade two. I already had these big books. I was reading all these big books. I had like several telescopes. Even in my geography class, there was a whole bag where I had put up like images of solar systems and galaxies. Um, and I think that was my path in the beginning, was to be an astronomer, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, when this bug called hip hop caught me at that early age, because the thing is with it, it transforms you because it's how you wear, it's how you carry yourself, it's how you speak, it's the words you use. Um, and so I think my conversion started around that time. So it was very early age for me already to have been, messing with anything else to say I was passionate about. So yeah,
No doubt, no doubt. And finding a special place within yourself for this culture and then allowing it to consume you the way it did, you know. What do I was I, you know You've mentioned this astronomy thing and other things that you might have thought about. Everything else went on the back burner after that because clearly you've got this love that's taken over.
yeah, um, yeah, man. Like I say, it's. Oh, actually, I just remembered the music that sometimes I would also play, and I would collect the CDs, which is weird. I used
Yeah.
to like Pavarotti classical music.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
bit strange, but I was that dude that listened to classical music because when I started producing, those were the records I started chopping.
Oh
you know,
yeah, 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 yeah. All the violins and the
all the
orchestral stuff.
violins and you know what I mean. And so when I started producing, that's the stuff I was chopping, and my sound would always have this grand, this big feel to it because that's where I was coming from. You
Right,
know?
right, right.
Yeah,
No, I feel that. I feel that. And at the time, I mean, when your eyes started getting adjusted to the realities of what was going on, and your mind started working towards thinking towards somebody involved in the industry rather than just in the genre. What was the industry like at the time, and what kind of things were happening that caught your attention, that you thought maybe things can be done in a better way, or in a different way, or in
yeah.
a we can do more.
I think around the time when I jumped on, like I say, in those early stages, obviously the culture was if we're comparing it to a baby, it was starting to crawl. If we compare it to let's maybe compare it to a baby to understand the
Right.
stages. So it
Mm.
was around the time when it was a baby was starting to crawl, because you must remember that the 80s and the start of the 90s, that's when I think Cape Town was very much instrumental, from the
Yes.
graffiti to the events to the dance, to basically the whole movement of the culture. And around 93, 94 is when I think Joburg was starting to make its own mark. You know,
Mm.
obviously with the birth of Le Club slash Reppingtons, obviously with, I think people like Jorge started moving to Joburg, meaning we're seeing more of, a style graffiti. Later on, clubs like Club Reality opening, and now you start having a lot of these Cape Town proper dudes that have been doing it for a while started to come more and more to Joburg.
Yeah.
Crews like Azanian B-Boy starting to come a lot more into Joburg. And obviously us starting to see like, oh snap, that's how they're doing it, because they were already eons ahead of everybody, because it
Sure.
makes sense because they had picked up the culture way before everybody else. But I think what had happened then is that the my sort of age group were coming in with our own ideas, because the sort of influence that we were picking up. So we were picking up a lot of this 360 influence, because a lot of the Cape Town guys would get this very uh, uh, um, the traditional sense of the culture, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
From what it was like in the Bronx, the original, the essence of it. So we were picking it up now from different places, not just from America, but we were looking at the graffiti from Germany, graffiti from Switzerland. We were looking at producers coming from Japan, producers coming from here. So I think when we jumped on it, we were able to, I think, express it out just a little bit more, because
Yeah.
we felt that we were not defined by this. Because if you remember with Cape Town, it's very like education, spread love.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got
Yeah. Yeah.
into it, it was like, man, I'm doing me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a
There was
competition. There
no
was a competition element as well.
It
That
was
that
more competition. Yes, it's true. As like when it got to Joburg, I think to a large extent it's when also problems started, because when it
Yeah.
got to Joburg, that's when commercialization happened. That's where money was. That's where style was. That's when I could do it better. There was no community, because Cape Town brought the whole community aspect of it.
Right.
But you know, sometimes the beauty about commercial is that it spreads quicker,
Yeah.
because it gets on radio. It means we get more TV, we get more newspaper, we get more radio, we get more of all these things, everything that we do. And I think that is why um, Joburg ended up being sort of a focal point,
Mm,
because
mm.
in all honesty, everything works out. The big radio stations are here, the big brands are here, TV's here, DSTV's here. You know what I mean? So we came around that time where now, for instance, whatever we were doing, we were able to get it on radio faster than anyone.
Sure.
We were getting the interviews. You know what I mean? Cape Town might have been doing the most amazing stuff. Durban might have been doing the most amazing stuff. But if we talk commercial and excess, I think that's where Joburg was, and that's how we got, I think, a leg up on it on everyone else.
Mm, mm, mm. And the standard of music at the time when all of this transition was taking place, what was the feel of the music like? What was happening?
Yo, it was quite hard, because the our influence was coming from groups like very underground. So groups like your Company Flows, Lyricist Lounge had played a vital role here.
Yeah, yeah,
Sound bombing was big. As a result, acts such as your Most Devs, Wu Tang, and that sort
yeah,
of sound. You know what I mean? And that's very New York. That's a very New York sound. And if you remember, New York is literally um, uh, uh, New York is very flashy if you think about it. It's very competitive. It's all about, I got this style, I got this sound, I dress this way, I look this way. Um, I'm iller than
I'm
everybody. I'm better
and
than, you know what I mean?
I'm the next big thing.
I'm the
Like
next big thing. You know, it's very cocky. It's very, braggadocious. And if you think about it, if you think of hip hop around that time in Joburg, that's what it was. It was, I'm the illest this, I'm the dopest this. Even when it started converting into vernac more and more,
yeah.
it said what happened. It was always Njenge. I remember we used to make fun of vernac rappers. It was, Njenge, Njenge. You know what I mean? So
No
yeah.
doubt. And I remember that at some point we thought when things go vernac, they might get more humble and less brag, but it probably went 10 times worse because
Oh,
it
of
be- it
course, man.
became
Because
it
you're now
became
comfortable.
easier. It became
Because you're more
easier to
comfortable,
flex.
yeah. Because you're now comfortable in, and it was a beautiful space. Truth
Oh
be told,
yes.
when the culture got to that point, because you must remember, there was always that fear of rapping in your own language, in your own mother tongue, because it was
Sure.
always like, nah, hip hop is not done that way. We need to rap like this. We must use our voice like this. And
Sure.
few cats started taking that chance. Whether the Amos, and I think these guys don't get highlighted a lot, but a crew like Crowded Crew, if you
Yeah.
remember, they from the onset they were rapping in Setswana, right?
Yeah.
They from the onset they were coming with that flavor of Setswana, and you started seeing people like Amo starting to also like, I cool, I'm a rap like this, but I'm gonna use this language that everyone can relate to. And
Right.
obviously, once people like Squatter Camp started spreading a little bit more, and when people like Jabba and Pro Kid got onto it, it was over. Because
Those tickets.
you know what I mean? Because those people then said you could be a superstar,
Mm,
using your own mother tongue. As a result, you start having the Cape Town cats, Spaza start blowing up. You start seeing the
yeah.
dudes in Durban doing their thing. You start seeing, from all over, you start seeing the spacemen, because you must remember people like Spaceman from Limpopo was not rapping Caspedi. He was straight up Brooklyn, New York, right?
Yeah.
But
That's
so
true.
started to see
That's true.
everybody like, then he's like, oh my god, so I can be comfortable. And as a result, it's how you seeing people like your iFunnies, your Caspers. It's literally
Sure.
what all these other guys were doing to make it comfortable for them to rhyme in their own mother tongue.
Oz, what kind of activities are corporates looking at? Speaking of these, these choices of using certain tongues and also approaching the game, what are corporates looking at? And what kind of activities which they could, which we could, focus more on in order
Yeah.
for people in our industry to benefit more from what's out there with the possibilities,
I'm going to answer that question in two ways. So I'm going to
Sure.
say what corporate is looking for and what government looks for, right? Because a lot of times dudes tend to try to run to corporate and forget government, right? So with corporate, you must remember corporate is here to sell,
Yeah.
right? That's the epitome of commercial. If you go to a beer brand's job is to move alcohol. If you go
Mm-hmm.
to a clothing brand, their job is to move their brand into people's hands. Same as an energy drink, same
Mm,
as whatever. It's about numbers, right?
mm,
Becomes
mm.
impossible when you start out and you're building your fan base and you expect corporate to come to you and say, yeah, I'm doing this little movement in my hood, sponsor me. Because corporate is always looking for a return on investment to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, cool. If I'm giving you 100K, if I'm giving you R1 million, if I'm giving you 500,000, or even if I'm giving you product, what's in it for me, right? What is the value that I'm gonna get
Right.
in giving you, whether it's money or product? And sometimes guys tend to think, no, it's easier for corporates to give you product, but you must also remember product costs money, right?
Mm,
The logistics of getting that product to you, there's a cost to it. Someone must pack it, someone must deliver it, someone must make that thing, So you always got to think anything that you get from a corporate, you need to be able to justify what the return on investment is to them. Whether it's in saying, I've got X amount of numbers at my show, or I've got X amount of numbers on my socials. These are the people, this is their profile. If you give me X amount, this is the sort of value you're going to get out of it, right?
Mm,
But when
mm,
you come
mm.
to government, government is not about return on investment because government is about community. So,
Right.
for instance, a lot of times government does call outs, right? We'll say, um, for instance, Department of Arts and Culture, Sports, Arts and Culture will say, hey, there's a Mzansi golden economy. Um, your proposal must speak on community building, must look at social cohesion, must look at all these elements. So if you are putting your proposal across the government, you need to touch on these things to say employment, So you always got to understand what is the current buzzword in government. If they're talking
Right.
about township economy, are you hiring people from the township to promote township economy? You know,
Right.
if they're talking about youth employment, are you employing the youth? You know what I mean? So these are the sort of things that they look at, and there's always multiple opportunities in those fields. And I say this because I've been able to master both worlds, corporate and
Mm,
government, with the programs that we do. Because we young people, we black, we speak community, we've got the numbers, we hire young business. So automatically we tick a lot of these boxes that speak on sort of both parties. But I always say to everybody, never concentrate on one. Always try hit both, you know?
So, I mean, you and your team have brought us, the biggest hip hop music festival in the continent, which is Back to the City. One that
Mm.
has grown, literally grown in front of our eyes. This isn't something that happened overnight, but something that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can tell just by the organic growth of the event itself that
Sure.
it's gaining more and more traction, but also more and more support, but also more and more people want to be involved on the back end as well as the front end.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Doing something like that for this continent, because it's become a continental interest now.
Sure.
What kind of vision does that instill in yourself as far as where you still need to go with it? Because
Yeah.
it obviously has the potential to still be whatever you want it to be, but
Yeah, of course,
has
of
become,
course.
yeah, has become something that has become a staple in some people's careers, even to say, hey man, I
Sure.
performed at Back to the City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, obviously the vision has keeps growing because, and I think you can tell by the products that come after the festival, because you must remember the festival, before the festival is when we're
Let's just see if the network will bring Oz back, having a proper conversation
okay.
about. Yeah, yeah, you're back.
So you can tell from the store and how it gravitates to end up being the festival. The festival being able to birth the hip hop awards, hip hop awards, and the festival being able to birth the South African Hip Hop Museum. So I think you're able to tell the growth and the shape and the thinking from these different products that we keep doing, and you can also see that these things take time. I mean, awards are now on their 10th year. The festival is like 14 years. So in the museum now, it's been being built for the last 3 years. And I think where things are now is more global. I mean, you guys are aware we've just partnered with Hennessy, where the festival is now called Hennessy Back to the City
Yes.
International Festival, because now the idea is, how do we access the globe now? Great. We've got these numbers in Africa, we've got this footprint. We've, been able to touch all these lives and whatever. But now, what is the next? And I think the next is global dominance, to say we've got a festival that's better than most of the festivals that happen in the States.
Yeah.
How now do we start shipping our talent? How do we get our local hero to collaborate with the local hero in the States, or in Canada, or in China, or in Japan, or
Yes,
you know what I
sir.
mean? Because we at the level where we are playing
We're just gonna see if this can get our network
to sort
right
of
back
those sort
again.
of heights. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And just before, while I still have you here, you know, we hear a lot when when the awards come around. We hear a lot of people's interest obviously get piqued because I think South Africa is a nation still obsessed with awards to some extent, whether it be a pageant, whether it be a music awards, whether it be video or whatever awards. We are a nation that is obsessed with that whole process. I think that competition phase does excite people. So, what are some of the lessons that have been learned by? What are some of the lessons that your team and yourself have learned through conducting the awards, and how that reflects on our nation as those people who are participants therein?
I think the lessons learned is always the importance of these platforms, number one, and how these platforms, we always have to be careful that we don't create a certain perception, right? Because you must understand, they're now at a point where you literally have people's careers and people's livelihoods in your hand, right? So that responsibility. Earlier on in another interview, I was speaking about how, in our come up, certain people had given us access into very important things such as radio. For instance, the reason you've been given that chair and that mic at that station is because someone assumes you'll be responsible with it. You will understand the importance of it, you know. So I think it's the same thing where we end up in a position where we need to understand the importance of having 25,000 people, you know, because it means you're responsible for 25,000 lives,
Mm,
right?
mm,
It
mm.
means you're responsible for the cream of the crop of our acts coming to the festival to perform. It means responsible for the cream of the crops of the graffiti artists coming to paint, meaning you need to have, the highest standard of safety, meaning, all these little things. And that is what I'm saying is these are the things that have then gotten us to a point where we like, actually, we're playing at a global level. You know what I mean? When you
Yes.
look at things like awards as well, it's the same thing of how we conduct. For the mere fact that the awards are sitting on SABC One prime time on a Friday, that tells you something,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we joke about when we're talking about earlier on your question of when I was coming in, where the culture was. If you had told me at some point that there'll be an awards show, a hip hop awards show, playing on the biggest channel with all these numbers, and
Mm.
they will be allowing us to have all this creativity, and we'll be having all these brands, these international brands. It would have sounded like a joke, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Straight up.
Because think about it: if someone said to you 20 years ago, you'll be sitting there with this show, and it'll be a hip hop show,
Like
it
strictly
would
hip hop
sound,
show talking
yeah, it
about the
will.
culture.
Yeah, it sounds far-fetched 20 years
Yeah,
ago. You
no
know what I'm
doubt.
saying? But yet here we are,
Yes,
you know?
sir. Yes,
Mm.
sir. True story. Oz, the interest of time, though, I do have to let you go, my brother. But I just first want to just extend my gratitude and also, our encouragement from our side at the Fifth Element, for
Yeah,
you guys to keep doing what it is that you do. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's not without its challenges, and it definitely isn't something that is a walk in the park. But we walk with you, and we try to do this thing all together for the culture. So keep doing what it is that you do. And thank you for sharing a bit of that journey with us. I think it's important for people at different levels to get that kind of reassurance, and we can only get that from people who have the kind of knowledge and wisdom and path that you have. So
yeah.
thank you so much, King.
No, I appreciate, man. And, once again, thank you guys for keeping these such platforms, because you must remember, you guys are the mouthpiece of all these different things that we do. You are the platforms that actually track history, that capture history, because you
Yes,
must
sir.
remember, for this happening, it means you've just captured history. You know
Yes,
what I
sir.
mean? So I say keep on and keep going, and much appreciated, and thank you for the love.
Thank you so much, man. Take care,
Peace
us.
and love.